this is Dodger, and you're watching my show.
Three, two, one, ready, go!
Oh man, guys, my whole life is basically Splatoon right now. That game is like, I don't know if it's the aesthetic or if it's the way that the game handles, I'm not sure. Once you turn off the motion controls, way better. But like, there's just something so fun about it. I can't wait for August because that's when they're gonna add some stuff, like proper matchmaking, which would be nice. Anyways, super fun. If you were wondering my opinion, super fun game. Speaking of Splatoon, if you are in the UK and you ordered Splatoon or Splatoon amiibos from the store game, you probably didn't get it on time. Why, you ask? Because there was a truck that got stolen, like at gunpoint, straight up stolen, that was just filled with Splatoon. It was just all Splatoon in there, and so pretty much like countrywide, nobody was getting their pre-orders from game. My heart goes out for you if you were somebody who was just waiting on that sweet, sweet Splatoon magic and didn't wind up getting it. But really, more of my focus is going into, did they know? Like, the people who were stealing this truck, did they know what was in there? Because that is real far to go for amiibos. I get it, man, they're collectibles, you gotta have them in your life, but maybe stealing a truck, too far. We actually got the 3-pack because Gerard is the best friend in the world. So if this did happen to you, you can either cancel your order altogether or you can get the standard edition of the game for £10 cheaper. I finally hit level 10. Feeling pretty good about myself. Speaking of Nintendo, a new Monster Hunter game was announced in the Nintendo Direct today, actually. It is called Monster Hunter Cross, or Monster Hunter X, depending on how you're reading it. I believe it's supposed to be Cross, I think. When you watch the trailer, the very first thing that you're gonna notice is how flashy everything is. There are some moves that you've seen players do with specific weapons where you're like, all right, but now it makes explosions and lights, and everything looks really impressive now. Specifically gunners, because I feel like gunners have always just, they're gunners. Like it just kind of looks like boo, 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 boo. They're fighting, right? But in this trailer, gunners look awesome. It makes me want to try being a gunner. One of the other things about this trailer that a lot of people have been pointing out is it looks like you're able to go to all of the different places that have been the focus of other Monster Hunter games. So there's a possibility that in the name Monster Hunter Cross, what they actually mean is kind of like a crossover of all of the different Monster Hunter games and worlds, which obviously has already been happening in terms of the monsters, right? We always see some of the same monsters across the games, but we haven't really seen the same places or the same people necessarily. There might also be new weapons, which would be pretty dope, so we'll just have to look out for that. Obviously, as with all Monster Hunter releases, we didn't hear anything about a Western release for this game because it's just now being announced for Japan at all. So it'll be a while. Obligatory, hey, put that on Wii U comment. Hey, maybe Wii U, I don't know, just think about it. Speaking of getting a controller that does things that you want, it's kind of a stretch, but it sort of worked. We've gotten a look at the new Xbox One controllers that are going to be coming out, and you will finally have a standard headphone jack. Hallelujah. Now, why is this such a nice addition, aside from the fact that Sony caught on to this much earlier than Microsoft did? The problem is that people were having to buy like a little extra dongle that you would attach to the bottom, and it was like $25 in order for you to be able to use your headphones with your wireless controller. It was just very silly. There are all sorts of situations in gaming where you need to have either headphones or a headset. And the fact that you didn't have that option already with this controller, like in this day and age, right now, we weren't able to have a controller that would plug into a headset or headphones for us. It was just so silly. And any of you who are saying, Bluetooth dog, get out. Aside from that, it mostly looks like the previous model, but we are coming up on E3, so you never know. They could be like, by the way, it also makes kittens. Just poops them out every now and then when you're feeling sad, when it senses rage. When it senses rage through your pulse in your hands, it'll poop out a cat. You're welcome. Let's talk about Twitch for just a second. Like literally just like a minute. I really don't want to go too deep into this because I feel like everybody has, and we already talked about it a lot on the podcast, etc. So, I just want just want to bring it up. So this past week, literally right around the corner from Hatred coming out, Twitch banned adult-only games, or AO rated games. Very, very rarely is a game rated AO. This does not happen very often, so it applies to very, very few games. Now, the way that this came across, of course, was, alright, we don't want people playing Hatred, so we're just gonna ban AO games across the board without having to actually call out that game. For those of you who don't know anything about Hatred, it's this game it's just like an ultra-violence game. And it's gotten a lot of press, like way, way, way too much press, that honestly has created this situation that we're in now, where people are like, whoa, what's up, what's going on with Hatred, y'all? I was reading like 18 other articles about how violent this game is, what's happening? So Twitch decided the best way to handle it was to just ban AO games altogether. It kind of covers their butts in the future for any other time that an AO game comes out. And then, you know, they don't have to actively say, we don't want people playing Hatred, because that just gives it more promotion, right? And also, in terms of, like, legalities and lawsuits in the future, it covers their butts that way, because Lord knows that pretty much anybody of any age can be like, yep, I'm 18, and get into any stream they want. Now, on the podcast, for the most part, we basically said they should have just told us that they didn't want us playing Hatred, because this feels like a weird workaround and people saw through it really easily. But at the same time, I do kind of appreciate them saying, you know what, we don't want to give them more publicity. Like actively making that choice of just, we don't want people playing AO games anyway. We're just gonna ban them, and then people can't play it anyway. So, mission accomplished. And Twitch, of course, is a private service. So, of course, they can come to us and say, we don't want you playing that game, and we honestly can't do anything about that. It is really interesting to me because, and I know I said I was only gonna talk about this for a minute. This is my last point, I promise. It's really interesting to me because we've spent so much time focusing on how do we police nudity, but very, very rarely do we discuss how do we police violence. For the most part, games can do just about anything and still be on whatever platform you want in terms of violence. In terms of nudity, the second that there's a nipple out, man, you shut that down. It's something that's a bit more subjective than people give it credit for. So as we continue to really, you know, focus on things as individuals and figure out what it is that we personally feel is the limitation, and then come together and discuss, hey, do you agree with this limitation? Cool, me too. We're gonna see a lot of platforms start to change, I feel like. The other day on Gamasutra, a man named Sean Oxspring made a big post, a big article, about a game that he created with a few other people called Natural Election. It's a game sort of in the same vein as things that we've been seeing start to emerge, start to pop out from the surface, that takes data from other sites and then pulls it into a game and has it apply somehow. We saw it in kind of a straightforward fashion in Twitch Plays Pokemon, right? Like that's sort of an idea where you just grab data, grab keywords, and then apply it to the game. So Natural Election was a game that took data from Twitter about the elections and then had it apply to different little characters that spawned and then fought each other, and it happened in rounds, and then you would be able to see like who so far in the election was winning. It's a really interesting way to tackle something like elections, because I think for the most part, even now, for the most part, people don't find them all that interesting or don't follow them very well. And especially with social media, most of the time people are going to follow someone who is along their same lines of thinking. Maybe not always, but for the most part, the company that you keep and the people that you follow are going to be people where you are interested in their opinion, right? So a lot of times you'll see similarities there. And it creates a situation where you're not always entirely sure what the landscape actually looks like. So to have a game that takes data literally from all of Twitter and it's just like, all right, I'm gonna grab these hashtags and these keywords, and then it's going to spawn these little characters and they're gonna fight, and we're just gonna see what's gonna happen. That's really cool. And I guess as they were getting closer and closer and closer to the end of the election, the game was running slower and slower and slower. I assume because there was more going on, like more buzz, if you will, happening on there. But I love stuff like that because it really does make something that's sort of all over the place, like an election, it makes it a bit easier to visualize. And in that situation as well, it could encourage people to become actively involved, because they know that their tweet, their active social media, right, is going to apply to the game, and they can see that happen. I guess originally they were going to have it so that all of the little characters had like a name above them and like the tweet and things like that so that you could see which one was yours. But they were a little bit worried because sometimes the tweets were very aggressive and they didn't know how many, you know, younger people were looking at it and trying to be involved, and they didn't want it to be off-putting that way. But anyway, I thought that that was super cool. They were talking about making a new one that would apply to E3 so that it would take the same sort of data from Twitter, and then you would be able to see which company won or was being talked about the most. So I think that would be really fun. I would love to see it apply to US elections. I think this one was UK. So, I don't know. I like stuff like that. I love gamifying real life because I think it really does activate interest in a lot of people who were previously disinterested. And as our final bit of news, oh my gosh, so all week there was this weird rumor going around that Microsoft was buying Silent Hills for billions of dollars. Now, if you look at this through the lens of somebody who reads a lot of articles, saying Microsoft is going to buy something like Silent Hills, not the property of Silent Hill, but just Silent Hills for billions of dollars, makes literally no sense. I think the most that they've ever spent on a video game property is Minecraft, and Minecraft is a whole other sort of animal, right? Like, Silent Hills is in a franchise that has been dying. Microsoft would not pay that much for it. But even so, it inspired so many people with just hope, so much hope of maybe Silent Hills isn't dead. Maybe it's all just been one big goof. Unfortunately, Phil Spencer at Xbox did take to Twitter and said, look, I don't know where this rumor came from, but no, this is not happening. This is not a thing. We are not buying Silent Hills. And this is happening at around the same time that Konami's press conference is happening, which was just a big old bust. It was just a big old, because like, they basically said, all right, we gotta respond to all of this. We can't just keep staying silent. They're starting to get really upset with us. So they made a press conference that was like, guys, guess what? We're gonna do some mobile games. Also, don't worry, Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill aren't dead as a franchise, but we don't know where they're going right now. All right, cool. See ya. Like the most underwhelming press conference ever of just so many things that need to be answered and none of them being addressed. I don't think any of us were worried that Metal Gear Solid was going to stop being a thing, right? That's a sweet moneymaker. The question is, where's Kojima going? What's going on with Kojima? What really happened with Silent Hills? And none of that was really addressed. So along with all of that frustration, the hope, the sweet, sweet hope of Microsoft saying, don't worry guys, we'll save the day. It was too great. It was too great to be true. It was too great to be real, let's be honest. It does make me sad that they don't realize how this whole situation has made diehard Konami fans feel, right? They're not just upsetting the people who were lukewarm on Konami. They are really upsetting the people who were diehard Konami fans. And I think that is they're gonna feel that for a while. Anywho, that's my show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a positive or a negative response, feel free to leave it in my comment section. And if you would like to have coffee with me, coffee will be coming back in July, so watch out for that. It's gonna be so magical, oh my goodness, and maybe I'll put more things in my office, I don't know. A lot of those shelves are still bare. Don't worry about it, we'll fix it. But have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you again next Sunday, okay? Bye-bye! Mwah. Just poops them out every now and then.